Currently, in the last phase of mother's life in Japan, she describes an incident that took place in 1919 January. There was a sudden epidemic, where people used to get high fever, and within 3 days they would die. If anyone survived the 3 days, it would take 7 days for recovery to start. Normally, there are no epidemics in Japan because the lifestyle of the people is very hygienic. They are clean, disciplined, and they take good care of themselves. So when this epidemic came, there was great consternation, and the number of people who used to die every day was so large that it was very difficult to give them decent cremation. It was spread all over, not only in Tokyo, where there was congestion, but even in other towns. And medicines were few, and there was great agitation. The lady with whom mother was living, obviously in another town, she was very nervous, and she used to ask her, why, what's the nature of this illness? Why this fever? Why this epidemic? What is the root of it? But mother would not or could not answer. And one day it so happened that she had to respond to a call from a friend who was on the other side of the town. And she had to take a tram car and go right through the town. And as she was traveling, she found such an air of fear, depression. People were afraid that almost everyone had a mask to keep oneself from breathing the polluted air. And she noted, and then she also asked herself, what could be the origin of this epidemic? She went to her friends, spent over an hour, and then when she came back, she found that she had high fever. Normally, when any viruses come in, they take a little time to lodge themselves and work their way before there is fever. But here mother found that she had fever immediately, and a very high fever at that. And when she came home, her hostess, she sent for the doctor. The doctor came, shook his head, and then he took out some packets from his pocket. He said, these are almost the last specifics that we have got. Most of them are exhausted. You better take it. She declined, and she said, I do not need them. You better use them for somebody who would use them, who needs them. But then the doctor was annoyed but he couldn't do anything. And then she explained that she herself didn't ask for the doctor. Anyway, the doctor went back and the fever rose still further. And on the second day, when she was in herself, withdrawn in trance, she suddenly felt a strange being with half a head plunging upon her, sitting tight on her chest. Half the head had been blown off, and that being was trying to suck the life force from mother's body. Mother tried to resist, but in her that condition, where she was immobile in trance, it was not that easy. And when she found that she was going to die if that continued, she summoned her occult power and gave a good fight to that intruder. And the being better retreat. Then mother realized that that being was a remnant of someone who had been killed in the First World War. There were many quite healthy people who were in the trenches, who were suddenly bombarded, and they died. And when they died, they didn't realize that they are dead. It was so sudden. So when they looked for their body, the body was not there. Life force was not there. So they turned into vampires and started feeding upon living human beings, sucking their life energies. And the being that attacked mother was one of them. Thereafter, the next day she had no fever. And a friend who called upon her, he said, "Oh, you have no fever?" And then he said, all over the town, the epidemic has passed, there are no more cases of fever. Then she explained to him what had happened, and she remarks that that person spoke to somebody else, and it also came in newspapers. Now, the lesson of this incident is that whenever there are such violent battles, wars, where people meet instantaneous death, sudden deaths, that is not the end of the battle. They were fighting. So even when they die, in the subtle world, they continue to fight in their surroundings. And those who are resentful, who are angry, who are frustrated that they are no longer living, that they have been denied their life, their life duration, they don't like very much healthy people enjoying themselves, having good health. So they get into the atmosphere. and cause accidents, cause confusion. Everywhere where there are such battles and wars, they are followed by a general kind of confusion in the atmosphere. You must have noted that after this Gulf War, where thousands and thousands had died for no fault of theirs, there has been such an outbreak of accidents, killings, disasters, mental confusions. You cannot explain them with physical causes. The causes are elsewhere. Those, they roam about, go on creating, releasing forces of accidents. And those who have observed the post-Gulf War situation days everywhere have remarked that there has been a sudden spurt in accidents, illnesses that need not have been normally. So, the cause of these accidents, epidemics, is not normally on the physical plane. Mother explains elsewhere how what medical science calls microbes, viruses, they are not really physically originated. They are results of ill will among people, among living people, hatred, thoughts and feelings of violence, and added to this ill will, there are the disintegrated vital vibrations of people who are dead. Those vibrations are not yet dissolved. Those and the continued ill will of those who are dead and who are not yet dissolved, all those take the form of form of microbes and viruses. And you can't explain how they have come and why. They said it is come, you have to treat it. They can't explain. So for the simple reason that their cause is not physical. So every thought of ill will, resentment, envy, anger, that we as individuals nurture, emanate, they contribute to the general situation, giving rise to these microbes and viruses. We have a part in this. These are things to be kept in mind. There was an interesting aside that when Mother first spoke of this, her explanation of microbes to the children on the playground, naturally it was taken down and it was transcribed and it was sent to the press for inclusion in the ashram journals. But the doctor who was in attendance on mother, he refused to accept it, he resented it, and he objected actually that this can't be right. So mother did not want to argue with him, and it was not her way of convincing anybody. So she just instructed Nalini to withdraw that particular talk from the press. And for quite a long time it was not published, but later on it has been included, and now we have got it in the collected works. But this is the truth. So that was in 1919, and in 1920 she left Japan, and on her way back to India she halted in China. We do not really have much information, any information about her visit to China. How long she stayed there, what she did there, we do not know. But there is mention of it in Satprem's biography of the mother, Divine Materialism. And it is confirmed that she did visit China. And she arrived in Pondicherry on 20th of April 1920. Before the ship touched Pondicherry, she narrates how, when she was about 2 nautical miles from Pondicherry, she was busy with something. Suddenly she felt a powerful change in the atmosphere, and she recognized that it was Sri Aurobindo's aura. And she landed on that 20th of April. She refers to her return to Pondicherry as a victory over the hostile forces who were trying to obstruct the manifestation. She stayed with Richard in what is known as Bayou House, Second Line Beach, presently owned by Photo Patel, C.K. Patel, known as Photo Patel. And Nalini describes how every Sunday they would go for dinner at that Bayou House, a dinner which was cooked under the supervision of mother, with certain dishes cooked by herself. And after dinner, they would go on the terrace, fronting the sea, split into groups, and some of the disciples would ask Sri Aurobindo to do some automatic writing, and he would agree, and his hand would write down some things, and at times there would be character readings of the people present, and it seems it was very remarkably accurate. Then somebody suggested that the reading could be of mother. It seems mother hastily intervened and said, "Not me." And the moment she said, "Not me," Sri Aurobindo's hand stopped where it was. And thereafter, it was not repeated. She lived in that house for about 6 or 7 months. The circumstances in which she left that house are again interesting. You know, in November, December here in Pondicherry, there's the rainy season, and there are usually cyclones, storms. They are somewhat less now than what they were years ago when I first came and even earlier. And that day, in November, whether it was, I don't remember the date, anyway it was in November. It was so heavily raining that roofs came down in some houses and it was leaking heavily in the house where mother was staying, Bayu house. So Sri Aurobindo called these youngsters and said, it is dangerous to let the Richards continue in that house, so it is better they are brought and they stay with us in the guest house where Sri Aurobindo and the others were staying. So it seems in the evening they started transporting things in that heavy rain, and it was midnight before many of the major things were transported, and mother shifted to the house where Sri Aurobindo was living. It was in November. Thereafter, she always lived with Sri Aurobindo. And gradually, things started changing. It is a long story, which is not very relevant. But the thing is, somewhere in 1921, I think, Richard left in a huff. He wanted her to go with him, but she declined. And then he had to go. He was very angry, and he went and scandalized with leaders of the day, including Tagore, I believe Gandhi or some Gandhi's associates and all that. But he left. And it was in that time that Motilal Roy asked mother, how did you meet Sri Aurobindo? And she wrote out the statement which we have already discussed earlier. Now, gradually she found that things were not at all well organized. Things were topsy-turvy, pell-mell in the house where Sri Aurobindo was staying. So gradually, obviously with the tacit encouragement of Sri Aurobindo, she started tidying up things, bringing things into order. And Sri Aurobindo was very particular that nobody should touch his table, because all the papers and things will look like in a very disordered heap. But he would always know where to find what he wanted. And he didn't allow anybody to touch his table, even to clean. So once mother tried, she said, that she would tidy up the things and he could see after that. Now I am not very clear whether she told him and did it or she did it on her own and Sri Aurobindo discovered it afterwards. But anyway, Sri Aurobindo was very satisfied that his things were not disturbed but they were cleaned. And thereafter she started regular cleaning up of Sri Aurobindo's table. and arranging things for him. And once, when she was cleaning his books, she found some currency notes in the books. So she asked him, why you have kept these notes in the books? So he wryly answered that otherwise they would take them away. Means the youngsters would help themselves with the money. And they shifted to the library house where the present Central Ashram building is located, from guest house, in 1922, September. Sri Aurobindo stayed there from 1913 to 1922, and they shifted to library house, where there is what is called, as soon as you enter there is the reception room, upstairs there is the prosperity distribution hall. So there they stayed till the present, the house where they stayed afterwards. Somewhere in 1928 or so it was ready. Till then they stayed there. And it was there that Sri Aurobindo was receiving people, but mother was not meeting people as a rule. She used to always be in the background and would meet only those whom Sri Aurobindo wanted her to meet them. Even at that time, when disciples or devotees would speak and seek help for illnesses, for some possessions, and some such difficult cases, he would always say, oh, that is for Mira, occult matters. There is other stories about it, how mother used to help people in her own way when Sri Aurobindo desired it. And she had interest in experimenting with cats, in developing their consciousness, linking them to the human consciousness and so on. Up to a certain stage, she took a lot of interest. And Sri Aurobindo also took interest. He would prepare fish and keep it ready for the cats. Mother would prepare things of milk, condense the milk and have some preparation of it for the cats. That's another thing with which is not closely connected with our study. But the fact is that cats did play a certain part in the life, in the experiments that were being done at that time. It appears that when they were meditating, Sri Aurobindo and mother were meditating together, Sri Aurobindo would naturally leave his easy chair and take seat in another. At that time a particular cat, would jump up on that easy chair and would sit there and would close its eyes. And it would obviously join the meditation. The cat would go even into trance and it would emit weird sounds. So mother had to intervene and call back the cat, lest there was some risk to its life, supposing it didn't know how to come back in the trance. So the cats were there participating in this life. And till 1926, mother did not take any overt role in the life here. It was only on the 24th of November, that Sri Aurobindo met all the disciples. There were about 26 or 27 of them, I believe, and announced to them that thereafter he would retire and they would all deal with him through mother. he would always refer to Mother as Meera for a long time. And Nolini describes in his reminiscences how slowly and slowly he started pronouncing her name as Mother. That is a very interesting narration. But when he told her to take charge, she herself was surprised, because she thought 24th of November would be a kind of a celebration of the overmind realization that Sri Aurobindo had attained. But he took that opportunity to announce that he would retire and Mother would lead thereafter. There was quite some resentment among the older disciples who didn't very much appreciate Sri Aurobindo's withdrawal, and they are having to deal through Mother, who was for them still a foreign woman, and they were all Swadeshis. So when voices were heard of this type, questioning why she was the mother, she was called the mother, why they had to go through her, Sri Aurobindo wrote the 4 powers of the mother. In long foolscap sheets, he wrote in his own hand, where he describes the 4 powers, Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi and Mahasaraswati and things like that. And it was circulated among people, first in the manuscript form, and later sometime I think it was printed along with some letters that Sri Aurobindo had written to disciples, the first 4 sections, first 5, and then the 6th section was this, the 4 powers of the mother. And that was how, after the 26th of November, the ashram came into being in a formal way. Even before that, slowly it was taking the shape that Mother had started organizing from behind the veil and putting some sort of order in the life here. And after the 26th, the ashram may be said to have been formed. Sri Aurobindo did not readily give the name of the ashram, because the samskaras in Indian tradition with the name, surrounding the name of the ashram is one of withdrawal, asceticism, rejection of life. So for nearly 3 days he did not take a decision. But thereafter he said, in this old Vedic sense of the house of the teacher, Guru Graha, this ashram, this was Sri Aurobindo ashram, in the sense of a Guru Graha, house of the teacher. And thereafter gradually, from 26, I believe 26 numbers to begin with, slowly it increased, and to provide for the needs, Mother organized a collective life, and each section was formed, electricity, water, various things. And there were, somebody called them departments. Sri Aurobindo said, no, they are not departments, they should be called service. Electric service, water service, some kind of service, but no departments. Somehow we have forgotten that, and we are loosely calling our sections as departments nowadays. That's another matter. And I really do not know how to proceed hereafter, but we will see next time.